Now, a Benedictine monk, medical herbalist, social scientist, colour therapist and theologian are just a few of the talents that describe my guest. Father Anselm Adodo is also the founder and director of Nigeria's foremost herbal research institute, the Paxherbals Clinic and Research Laboratories. He has more than 20 years' experience of research and lecturing on topics as diverse as the phenomenology and history of religions, the theology of the liturgy, anthropology, ethnobotany, ethnography, and medical sociology. Father Anselm, a very good morning to you. Where do you find the time for all this?
Well, I created the time. I have to manage my time. I don't work alone. I work with other people. I have to gather the resources around me and try to achieve as much as possible.
Well, you've achieved a lot, I'll say that. But, I mean, it's quite a range of areas that you specialise in, very eclectic. Is there one that stands out that has perhaps the most appeal or interest for you?
Yes, it is my ability to gather the community together. I live in the rural community in Edo State, in the Midwest part of Nigeria, and my work has been able to, show the people the potentials that is available in the local communities, and the community has become a vibrant, community. They can feed themselves. So I show them the potentials available and what they can do to grow. For me, that is a big achievement. That instead of people lamenting that they have no food to eat, now they have a sense of dignity and what they can do for themselves.
So it's satisfying on one level, but spiritually rewarding as well, I would imagine.
Very spiritually rewarding, because at the end of the day, we need to share with other people. If you have one rich man in a community of 100 people, then in Africa we call such a man a poor man. Because he's going to get a lot of resentment in the community. So I'm very happy that I'll be able to gather the community together to achieve a lot for themselves. And for me, it's spiritually uplifting, and I'm very happy.
It's interesting because an outsider looking in, when they assess the range of what you do, they would say that there are some New Age aspects of that. I mean, how does that fit in with your role as a monk?
The monasteries, they are centers of learning, preserving tradition, and the monastic tradition goes back to thousands of years ago. So what we call New Age is not New Age, it's actually old age. Yes. So we try to make the old age new in the modern world. For me, it is going back to tradition. And that is what my work about herbal medicine is about also.
And let's talk about that, the herbal medicine, because we're talking about it a lot in the West. Has it been fully embraced in Nigeria? Because you're talking about really using plants from the land, using the natural ingredients that they have to offer for medicinal purposes.
Yeah, we have been doing this for about 20 years. I would say 10 years ago, the impression about herbal medicine wasn't so good. People think herbal medicine has to do with witchcraft, fetish practices. So
it still has that stigma attached to it?
Yeah, there's a lot of changes and a new approach to herbal medicine, but still, we still have that impression. And what I've been able to do is to change this impression. And I believe the way to change it is to make it scientific and rational, and that is what we are able to do. When people know that herbal medicine is scientific, it's rational, and it's not just fetish, I think there will be a lot of improvement.
It's interesting, though, that you've had to use science to break down some of those barriers, because you often find that older people in my parents' age group, for example, in their 80s, they grew up in a rural background, and they grew up using these plants and knowing how to select them, how to prepare them, and what ailments they actually cured, whereas the children who followed, they were very dismissive of the whole thing. But do you find that intergenerational divide still exists?
Yeah, what I discover in the community is that when we speak about science, it does not mean going to the laboratories, So the ancient people, they were very scientific. They knew the plants, they could identify it. Maybe they have their own method of doing this, but we need to recognize that science is a gift that came from our forefathers to the people of today. And science does not just mean, wearing a lab coat and being in the laboratory. The farmer who tills the soil is a scientist, see? And the scientists of today, they won't have much to do without going back to the knowledge already generated. Science only tries to validate what has been discovered. So I try to tell the local people that they should be proud of themselves because they are scientists.
Yeah, and it's part of that heritage. Now, the other thing as well is that you were also an official observer at the Nigerian elections, and a lot of people talking about those elections, the aftermath, they've said that it was a watershed moment for Nigeria. Do you share that view?
Yes, the tension, there was so much tension before the presidential election, and there was this feeling by everybody that this is a decisive moment in the history of the country. I was an observer in the local communities, and I saw the old people, their old age, in their 80s and 70s. They waited for hours just to make sure they are part of history. And I was impressed, I was touched. I interviewed them, and their answer is simply that they want to be a part of history, because we believe that was a turning point in the history of Nigeria. And there was this fear that it could lead to some war, violence. Eventually, everything turned out to be very good.
That's a wonderful note on which to end this, in fact, Father Anselm, because time has gone against us. But Father Anselm Adodo, thank you so much for coming in and sharing your time with us here on This Day Live.